presentations that are being made tonight.
Okay. If I could, I'll skip the preamble and we'll go straight to Jennifer Gibbs. We'll introduce the demonstration and then also we'll go through the slides and the slide program.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. As you know, we were asked to look into videotaping city council meetings and potentially workshops, depending on what you choose to do. And so we looked around at other cities to see what they did, what technology they used. And there's a lot of similarities in the technology they use, and there's some differences. So we asked one of the vendors to come in and do a demonstration of what kind of option you might have, and then we'll go a little bit into the cost that we might have if we chose to do it here. So this is Natasha Ross from Swagit, and she's going to talk about what their technology does.
Hello, good evening. Thank you guys for having us here. So I'm going to give a little demonstration on what it is exactly that Swagit Productions does. We specialize in video streaming for government, and we've been specializing in this technology since 2003. Since 2003, we have over 250 jurisdictions that we work with, and since we are based predominantly here in Texas, we have the most of our clients here in Texas. But since we started in 2003, we have 100% client retention, so we've never lost a government client since we started. So what I'll do is just talk about kind of the basic technology. Swagit, basically, if we were the selected vendor, we would come on site, we would do a camera installation, there would be an encoder here at this location. The encoder basically is going to be streaming your meetings live as they're happening. And while they're streaming live, it's also recording your content without anything or anybody having to do anything here at City of Grapevine. So Swagit's going to set all of the record times for the encoder. It's going to record, it's going to upload the content to our video department. Our video department is actually going to watch your content and create your index points or timestamps on the video. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. This is one of our clients, the City of Southlake, and we've been working with them for several years now. And what you'll see here in the middle of the screen is called our iframe. The iframe is basically just going to consist of giving you guys an embed code. And we work with Civic Plus, who's your website provider, and a lot of our clients actually use Civic Plus. So we would provide you with an embed code. The embed code would just be placed into the middle of the blank page somewhere on the website. And within this iframe, Swagit is going to be able to live stream your meetings right here where you see the live stream. I'm going to hit play. So right now, this is what's actually being broadcast or televised on Southlake's channel. It looks like they might be having a meeting right now, so it's live streaming. And your residents then can go out and watch the meeting live if they can't make it to a meeting. And additionally, while it's live streaming, like I mentioned earlier, it's recording the content. And so as it's recording the content, our video department is going to start the index process on your archives. Your archives are going to show up on your website anywhere between 3 to 4 hours from the time that your meeting ends. So it's a very quick turnaround time. Again, nobody here is going to have to do any kind of time stamping during the meeting. It's all going to get indexed and posted to your site 2 to 3 hours from the time it ends. So if I were to click on workshop item 3, you'll see the video follows and so on. So if you do this for all the different items, you can get very quickly to the information that you're trying to find. Additionally, we integrate your agenda into the media player. So this is the agenda for this particular meeting, and if you didn't want to do the indexing, you just wanted to watch the entire meeting, you could just follow along with the agenda. We also include a share tab within our media player. The share tab has a link code and embed code. So if there was something really neat that happened during the meeting, say you had some Boy Scout troops that came in, they received an award recognition, and you thought, well, you know, that's kind of a neat little clip, we'd like to take just that specific item, maybe embed it onto your homepage to help drive traffic to the website. It's a great tool. You don't have to contact Swagit. You can just come directly to your media player and get that information and then embed that onto your homepage. So there's a bunch of functionality there. We actually will...
Excuse me, anybody can do that?
Anybody can, yes.
Okay.
Now, if you don't want that function to be there, some of our clients decide not to have it, and we can actually remove that. So it's really your choice in terms of if you want it there or not. Most of our clients do like it, but it's either or. Another feature that I'd like to show you guys is the search feature. So if you have somebody, a resident, that wants to find something, but they're not really sure what meeting it happened in, they can come to the search feature, type in the word park, as an example, and what comes up is all the meetings where park was talked about. What's really nice is it doesn't just pull up the meeting, it actually pulls up the sub-clip, so you can get directly to the point in the meeting where part was talked about. So for internal staff, I mean, to find information very, very quickly, it's a great tool, and then for the public to be able to get to that information very quickly as well is very nice. We are a meeting management solution, so we do like to have, you know, all the meetings and everything archived here. We actually will archive your meetings for up to 3 years on the website. If you want additional years, it's only $180 beyond the 3 years. So the 4th year would just be $180 for the year to have your 4th year basically archived on site. We actually retain, though, all of your content for the life of the agreement. So as long as you're a Swagit client, we actually will hold your content for you. At the end of 6 years, if you decide, Swagit, you know, we're going to go someplace else, we'll put all your content onto DVDs because Swagit doesn't own it. The city owns the content, and we'll give it back to the city. If you have a resident that does a public information request and wants just a particular item or something, or a particular meeting on a DVD, you would just send an email to Swagit, we'd put it onto a DVD. We cannot hand it out to the resident, but we can pass it off to you guys, and then you guys can hand it off to the resident. It doesn't cost anything additional to have that service. In addition to meetings, we also want to make sure that our clients know that we want to host and post anything that's not a meeting too. So it's not just specific to meetings. If you have PSAs, or if you've got some kind of community event that somebody goes out and takes, you know, camera out there and records some content, we want to make sure that that content is available right here in your archives as well.
What's a PSA?
Public service announcement?
Oh, okay.
Yes. So just, you know, and what's really nice too is because we are a local company, you know, we also have, you know, production guys that can actually come on site someplace and they can record something if you don't have the staff to do that. We also have a PEG PSA program where basically we can create some PSAs and all that stuff. So anyway, I don't want to get on into all that, but does anybody else have any questions as far as like the video streaming solution and how it works? Or I can get kind of technical, but I just wanted to give kind of an overview of really what it entails and how it would work. And it's, again, all of it's hands-free, so none of the staff has to worry about it, which is really, really nice.
I think you mentioned that at the end of either 3 or 6 years that you could put it on the DVD and give it to the city. Could you do it more frequently than that? For instance, if we wanted it every 6 months or every year?
Well, what we could do is we can include something where you could actually just make the copy here locally if that's something you wanted to do. Or we could put it up onto your FTP client, which is just a file transfer protocol. We just basically set up an account and you can get all of the files off of there and burn them. But as far as like doing it on a continuous basis, we can do it. I mean, we can. It would just, there'd probably be, you know, a cost associated with doing it, yeah. But yes, the answer is yes.
Are we regulated by any specific laws, statewide or national, that if we start recording, they have to be gifted with a certain way, or have to save them for a certain amount of time? Or is there anything that comes into effect like that?
The sunshine law is 3 years, is my understanding, that it's 3 years on the website.
If we record them, they have to be kept for 3 years on the website.
Well, what's the rule for audio? Is it the same, or is there a rule for audio? I mean, I don't think whether it's audio or video. Is it different?
The same thing.
I think it's the same thing.
Huh?
Is that any different, Tara? I'm not aware of it.
Yeah.
Anything you know of legal about it?
No.
Attorney standpoint?
I mean, we keep the audio CDs in our office.
Right. And it's easy to download the video too, isn't it?
And I'll just note that some of the reasons you guys asked us to look into this is because video equipment's much less expensive now than it was, for example, when we moved into this building. Everybody has high-speed internet now, so streaming is a much more feasible option. There's more vendors that do it, so there's more competition, it's less costly. And then of course cloud technology, because video storage is so costly, we've found out recently. We've looked at the other cities around us and what they did. The city of Euless doesn't videotape their meetings, or at least the city doesn't. And then the other cities, mostly live stream. And really, if you're setting up something now, you probably might as well live stream it. There's not much purpose in archiving it. Let's see, obviously our meetings, so it's a little bit of a different challenge than maybe some other cities do because we've got the P and Z meeting at the same time as the city council. So these are the options we could have if we chose to go forward. The city council regular meetings only, the workshop and the regular meeting, or both of those and then P and Z meetings. And of course, there'd be more costs associated with putting cameras in this room and then putting cameras in the P and Z conference room.
Go back to those calls for just a minute, please.
And then our options, of course, are using a service like Swagit, where it's sort of hands-free to the city. They just do it remotely. Or an independent contractor to come in and just do the filming, or hire staff to film meetings. This is the annual cost with Swagit. City council meetings, $7,800, and then $10,200 to do the P and Z and the council meetings after the initial setup cost of buying the equipment. That is all that we have. We'd be happy to answer questions.
The only question I have, go back to that last slide where you say city council meetings, city council meetings, which one of those includes workshop recordings as well?
The city council meetings
Would be both?
Would be both.
Okay.
And that's just because they're
Right.
not at the same time.
Right, okay, that's all I want to make sure, thank you.
What's interesting about the camera system is actually that we control the cameras remotely, and I'm not sure if I've made that clear yet, but we are actually based in Plano. So if anything were to happen with the system, we'd be able to come out very, very quickly, and be on site. The encoder does have a 3-year warranty, so we keep the stuff in stock. If something were to happen with the encoder, we would just come out and replace the encoder. You don't have to worry about that. And then remotely, what we do during the meetings is we actually can control the camera. So we can zoom in, zoom out, take different shots, take the PowerPoint projector slides. So we do all that remotely, which is a great cost saver because we don't charge by the hour. And it's very difficult for government to charge or to know and predict and budget for something that they really can't know how long the meeting's gonna go for in the future. So we made it simple and we just made it like a per meeting cost. They're always, it's kind of an average as far as how many meetings a year there's gonna be. And so that we priced it out in such a way that it makes it easy for government to budget for.
And so when you're controlling the cameras, I assume that you're going always to the person that's speaking. I mean, that's what they do in South.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So the 7,800 would be 2 council meetings a month in the chambers. Chambers would not include the workshop, or it would include the workshop.
It would include the workshop. It's 25 meetings a year.
And then the $10,200 figure would be the city council meeting, the workshop in here, and the workshop. So the choice would be between one of those 2 numbers rather than each. And that's in addition to the $60,000 or so that's the equipment.
So the way we currently operate, we would have to pay to camera up the council chambers and most definitely the P and Z meeting room.
You wouldn't have to.
I think
We could do just the council chambers and then move everything into that room.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to video the P and Z meetings, or you could do that in another phase.
But if you wanted to, you'd have to do
Yes.
that room.
I mean, it seems to me if the opportunity to really have better communication, seems to me that we need to do city council and P and Z.
Yeah, we've got kind of a unique situation here, where a lot of these other cities have, the P and Z meets at a different time, but in the same room. We're a little
They
bit.
do their workshops out in another room.
And their deliberation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, given the cost structure looks pretty reasonable to do all 3 up front. And I think that's all about just trying to get as many people plugged into understanding what's going on here at City Hall like we can, even though, they're busy, they can't make it here for whatever reason, but it's still accessible, either live, real time, or thereafter. think that indexing thing is pretty slick. I think that's pretty cool for just archiving and being able to quickly refer to and find, something that's happened historically for both citizens and staff.
Well, and there's a lot of times I'll go back to them because I listen to them pretty regularly, and I'll have to go through it to try to get to that particular zoning case or something that I want to hear. And particularly if we're hearing something again, a lot of times I'd like to go back and hear the first discussion we had, and you don't have the ability to sync the two together. So I really like that. The question that I had when you said that it's controlled off-site, how does it work if we queue it up in here when we go into executive session?
Let you answer that, Brian.
You want me to answer?
Yes. Sorry, I brought along our tech.
So basically, in the non-recurring is what I'll say, cost with all the different levels, the big price was with a system in there. Additionally, there'll be 2 cameras in here tied into there, and then you need an audio system in here as well, and then a separate system for the P&Z. So basically, what our staff sees, or the system can be operated locally. So it can be operated locally. But what they see is they just see every camera feed. They have a preview and what's going out. Technically, if you're in a normal TV situation, you're program out. And so they can just say, hey, camera 1 through 3 or 4 is in the council. In that same broadcast system, you have 5 and 6 that are actually in the work session room. And then they have slides that they can go to, like programming resumed shortly, or council's in executive session.
Right, but how do we actually turn the camera off? When we go
It's all
into
done
executive
remotely.
session-
Our guys are watching it and control it all remotely.
So once the mayor would announce that we're going into executive session, the
yeah.
cameras would go off.
Exactly. Or they'll go to us, your logo.
Then how do you know when we're back on?
Basically, your audio feed to us. So if you cut off your audio feed, we're not
When it
getting
comes
audio.
back on.
When it comes back on, we know.
Got it.
They're watching all the cameras. They can see when if you do a gavel or whatnot. That's what. There's a lot of different ways that it can be done, and that jurisdictions do it. From Texas Health and Human Services, they do it just, hey, at 9 o'clock we're supposed to have a meeting. If we're not in there and ready to go, we want you just to take the camera live and just go. We'll turn on the audio when it's going.
Yeah,
Others just say,
I think that's what they do in South Lake, actually.
Yeah.
So we turn on the audio here rather than you.
Yeah, so the broadcast system just gets a direct feed out of the audio system.
Out of the audio, so we
So,
control
yeah,
it.
we can't control your audio, right? Because if we were to mute it, we're muting it to ourselves.
Right.
So we wouldn't know that you guys are ready to come
Right,
back.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Assuming we decide to go forward with this, what's the time? I mean, what would it be, 3 months, 4 months, 2 months?
No.
What's your typical turnaround time?
For deployment on broadcast systems, 45 days.
Okay. Okay, good.
Do we have any money budgeted for this year?
We do not. Obviously,
So we have to take it from something else to pay for this, obviously.
what we would, and of course, we have a better than expected sales tax for this fiscal year, so we're doing pretty good in that regard. So if the council chose to fund this, what we would do would just be to bring a budget amendment back to you, have you approve that appropriation, and then we would go through and do a request for proposals, because there are several vendors who do this. We want to make sure that we went through that process appropriately, and then we can come back to council with a recommended fund somewhere.
We are flexible in what if your purchasing needs, whether it be DIR, sole source. There is no other vendor that does the hands-free broadcast systems. So we are familiar with 200 plus government agencies, whatever purchasing that you have to required to do.
Okay, back to Darlene's question a minute ago about our executive sessions. Is there for lack of a better term, a kill switch that would kill the video? We can already turn off the audio, but is there one that would turn off the video during the executive sessions as well? Or could there be? I guess I should say that.
Yeah, there could be. I mean, you could pull the video plug going to the encoder that's sending it out, too.
Well, once we turn off the
Yeah, I mean,
audio.
it just depends how you want to do it, and who's going to be responsible for doing that kill switch,
Yeah.
and what's most.
It would have to be here like the audio is here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most cities, they just remove it out of the room.
Okay, that works.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know how much interest we have in this, based on the number of people that come to our council meetings, but the cost is nominal. Other cities are doing it. If we decide to do it, though, I think that we need to move our workshops into the council chamber where we got microphones where they can pick it up, where they'll be able to hear the audio properly. And so the public can see that that's part of what we do down here. We have a lot of workshops, and space is limited back here. So I do think if we're going to do it, we need to move everything. My guess is most other cities are doing that. Have less workshops. So you get a better video, you get a better audio.
Sound, better sound.
And it just has a more professional setting.
Well, that would
I
leave
agree
this
with you.
area then for executive session, and we would never have that.
Yeah, let's
case.
close
Eliminate
it.
it.
You wouldn't have that problem if you didn't have the cameras back
Right,
here.
so.
I'm fine with
Probably a
that.
good
I mean, I
idea.
think a lot of times in workshop, we have more than one person talking at a time and having separate conversations. It's hard to do that.
Since
out
when
there.
does that ever
So
happen?
I think out there, yeah. I think, well, we all get, in our dialogue. So I think out there, I'm fine with that, Mayor. I think that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, well, I think, back here, the acoustics are not as good, and people are talking away from you.
Right,
So,
they can't hear.
it's not set up back here really for that type of presentation, the video and the audio. We don't have any microphones, so I think it's important that everybody be able to hear and see
Yeah, I
the
think that makes sense.
presentation. So
I'm fine with that.
that's something the staff would have to try to think through and see if we needed to make any adjustments in our council chamber.
You may remember several years ago when we started having workshops back here, this was a city manager or two ago, and started coming in earlier and earlier and earlier for workshop, and I was not pleased about that at all. This was before.
Before me.
Before
Shane.
Shane, you were here, and I think you may remember that, when we didn't have workshops back here. You've slept since then, so I think, if we're gonna do this, we need to do everything. So I like having it out there to save us some money, and as Shane said, give us a venue for the
It
executive
ensures that
sessions
this
that's gonna
room
come.
remains confidential for
That's
executive
right,
session.
and that's what it needs to be, so I think
I
that's a
think
great
that's a
solution.
really good suggestion.
Yeah.
I like it.
Good.
All right.
We have our direction.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Good
Thank you for
presentation.
having us.
Jody is item number 2, if there are no other questions on that, and I don't mean to rush, but Jody. And Jody, if you'll go ahead and pull up the slide. Presentation. Because we're doing the Community Activity Center expansion and renovation next year, it impacts our ability to vote in that building during 2014. And when we say CAC voting to City Hall, we looked at lots of different venues relative to this. What you'll see when you see the calendar is that voting in 2014 is a long process. It takes up a lot of days. So even though we have a lot of facilities, because those facilities are mainly dedicated to the public or for rent, it doesn't take you long to figure out that we need to try to do it in a place that would impact those ideas as little as possible. So Jody, I don't mean to steal your thunder, but there you go.
You're fine. Okay, so there's a potential of 6 elections in 2014. So with the construction of the CAC, we were concerned about safety to voters, equipment, So we were looking at a possible relocation from the CAC to possibly here at City Hall, okay? The yellow that's on the calendar that you're looking at is early voting. So, which is a 2-week time frame prior to the election, which shows the date in the aqua color. The CAC will host the primary election in February of 2014.
due to the volume since it's a government, so that they can cast their ballot. The amount of time that we're looking at 6 potential elections in 2014. It's 2 weeks at a time. It's daily, 7 days a week, takes up to 13 hours. They have voting. They prep before they open. Their polls, some days are open 7 to 7. Sundays they're open 11 to 4. The legal requirements of having to meet the election code, we have to get permission from the Commissioner's Court. You will set the venue that needs to be in my election order come February to be able to call an election. And then, of course, we have to have pre-clearance from the Justice Department to make sure that we are not infringing upon voters. So the possible places that we looked at, I think they may not be on the list, but we've looked at every single place that we could go, whether it be City Hall, the Mitchell House, Merlot, the Senior Citizen Center, the training, the library, program room, convention center, whether it be the convention center, the CVB headquarters, Wallace Hotel, the Founders Building, a fire station was thought of, the service center break room, the American Locker Building that's at Main and Dallas, since it is a centrally located building, but in poor condition. GCISD did offer a room at the admin building, but then you're going south of town. Tarrant County has used a church before, not necessarily for every single election, like we're thinking of doing for an election cycle for the year. And then also the possibility of a rental location. Okay. In your map and what's up on the screen shows City Hall being a large building on a small lot. Whether you go out the front door or the back door of City Hall, state law has that 100-foot buffer that you cannot electioneer, post signs, distribute material. We're thinking that, the back of the City Hall is ADA compliant. The county did come out and measure everything to make sure if we use this building that we would be, in compliance with state law. So to the south on the west side of the building, the 3 parking spaces would be, handicap. It would be marked, okay? To north of there, just there on the same side of the building, just have regular hop in for the voter if they want to. Voter parking, and then also on the east side of the building, they're directly off of Main Street. We would also put signs underneath the water tower like I use at the CAC right now that says reserved for voter parking to give somebody if we have additional. And then we would also have signs made so that they could use the 2 parking lots that we have out there off of Texas Street.
Okay, question. Because we have parking down here between the back door and the garbage rack. Are we going to still allow that for general people, not voters, to come in and have a place to park, to whiz in and pay water bills and go back out? Like we've got, we're not going to block those off to everything along the back of the building, are we?
No, we since we have the voting out front, and it's one of those that, we will use the city newsletter, the website, every media accessible to the city to let people know if we do relocate where parking will be. I will be talking to the newspaper to, speak for us also to the fact that where people can go actually park to be able to make it convenient for them.
Yeah, it's not much parking.
No, there's not.
And that's a problem, especially when you come into those bigger
And that was one of the things that we did look at, is parking,
Have to almost use that back lot.
We're gonna have to,
Exactly.
we're gonna have to use something, we're gonna have to figure something out to provide more parking, because, like Sharon says, we have to have that handicap parking for our regular customers.
And just plain parking for our regular people to come in and out too.
Yeah.
It can't all be taken up next to City Hall by voters. That's what I'm getting at.
But we gotta have adequate parking for voters, so we're gonna have to figure
What was,
that out.
what was the downside to the library program room?
Yeah. To me, that's the ideal place.
The number of programs that they do that go on during the summer reading club. We're trying to not mix uses between and because that room cannot be divided. I mean, we looked at their foyer, we looked at the space inside the library,
Do they do those every day of the week?
pretty much so. I mean, whether it's.
Something going on down there.
Yes.
What about the convention center?
Well, it's rented out a lot.
See,
It's
and
in
then-
there, so. What about the senior citizen center? I mean, they've got the room and they've got the parking.
They do not have room until after 3 o'clock when all their programs are done.
Well, that's a deal breaker.
Yeah, I think City Hall's a problem. I mean, if it's our only
The
choice.
admin building out at GCISD, I mean, that's a little bit further out, but at least it's still sort of in the center part of town. You don't like that?
No, I have no problem.
Okay, all right.
Do they have space?
Well, they have their,
Yes.
They've got the space and they've got the parking.
well, they have their own election, at least in May.
At least people would be there
Well,
at the same
they're on
place.
our ballot.
Right, you're right, they come on our ballot.
See, because the CAC is the early voting location for all elections, whether it's city, state, or federal. Okay, and then the CAC is also a voting precinct location.
Yeah. So if people want to, are they still gonna have to go out to the admin building to vote, and they're gonna be on our ballot either way?
Correct, because it's a joint election, so, and see, that's,
I really like that. I mean, it's time for them to help us.
see, my concern was someone who lives in northeast or northwest Grapevine, having to travel almost, and it's very close to South Lake's polling location, so therefore you have that cluster, it's outside of the downtown area.
It's a mile and a half down the road, or 2 miles at the most.
To the fact, because, you know, like on election day, it could potentially leave the county without a polling place for 3114, which, you know, has always
We've
been.
had that in other elections for other precincts.
I'm not opposed to what Sharon's suggesting at all. I do think, I don't know, I would sort of like to go back and revisit if there's any way we can merge the libraries on a temporary basis, only because it's in the same general area. It's got adequate parking, but if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But it just seems to me that that's a little bit more of an ideal location.
Well,
But,
our program room.
huh?
Yeah, the program.
I mean, is
And
that
I
would be my
recognize
first choice?
That
Yeah.
is probably used a lot, but certainly there's, to accommodate this, I'm sure that we could find a way to move those programs, at least temporarily, somewhere else.
There's other rooms in there they could perhaps use other areas in there.
The other thing is they're not gonna see all these pictures on the wall, all in your business, it just feels weird to me.
I prefer that it's somewhere along Main Street, you know, and somewhere fairly close to where people are already used to going. So even if even if they went to the CAC, that there's a sign that says you just need to go next door or up the street, that, you know, you can still get directed and you wouldn't be completely disenfranchised from making the trek, you know, somewhere else. I like the idea of keeping it as close to the CAC as we can. I understand there's some constraints here, but I guess.
Well, everybody's familiar, I say everybody, voters are familiar going to CAC. And even though that's going to be under construction, if they go there, and I agree, there's a sign go next door, nobody's really,
They'll probably still go.
There might look at ways to relocate the library programs to a building that's not being used.
How many kids are usually in those summer reading programs? I'm thinking it's like 15 or 20 max. I mean, we don't have 50 or 75 in there. And we've got the genealogy room in there. We've got the Texas history room that could be set up with chairs that could accommodate the reading programs, I would think.
No, what those rooms are intended for, they could be used that way for a temporary basis. I really prefer, I agree keeping it
I
close to
still don't
the.
understand the problem with using the convention center. We don't use one run down.
I'm fine with the convention
You got
center as
more
well,
room in
Bill. I don't have a problem with the
convention
convention
center.
center. If we
You
can,
can allow-
I think we should revisit those two.
Not this place and any other activity.
Yeah, I agree. Convention center's large.
As far as they're concerned, that's fine.
There might be a little bit of revenue related, but
That's why we wanted to come to you. It was early on, so we had plenty of time to make the decision, to sort of go through what we had done, what the thought process was, and to get y'all's direction in terms of if you want to do it here or you want to keep looking. And so what I'm hearing is keep looking both at the library and at the convention center and come back to y'all.
Those would be my two.
Mine too.
I think the closer it is where they've been voting. That way, if people don't get the word, we can put some signage up. That'd be more convenient, there'll be more people voting.
Yeah, I agree. And there's better parking, there's more parking.
It's all the parking.
Parking's a problem.
Or build a garage.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Jody.
Yeah, the financial monthly.
We do, Mr. McGrane?
Mayor, members of the council, there's not a whole lot to report tonight, because this will be the first month of our new fiscal year. Just a couple of quick highlights. One of the emphasis we're doing this year is that we have the accounting staff, their first priority this month, sorry, last month, this month, and part of this December, is working on year-end closeout. So we're going to see a little bit of difference in the accounts payable and accounts receivable. Not a lot, but that's because they're spending all their time trying to get the year closed out. And we're very close. The auditor should be in at Thanksgiving. We anticipate having it wrapped up hopefully through the audit committee by middle to end of December, maybe at the city council the first meeting in January. But I will point out some of those. I did want to point out that in regards to the year-end closer, I can give you a preliminary number. Sales tax was up 3.5% over the prior year. Staff missed it by 0.5%. We projected 3%. Remember that, hopefully before that, we projected 3% growth. We missed it by 0.5%, so we still did. Again, I don't have a lot to say about the general fund except the current, which is not reflected in the financial numbers, but the current sales tax was up. If you adjusted for the audit adjustments and the prepayment money, it was up just about 8%, which was a very good sign for us because the prior 2 months they were down. 1 month was down significantly, the other month was down slightly, which still went into last fiscal year. This check we just received will go into this fiscal year, so we're starting off about 8% up, which is a good signal for us in the general fund. You will see that on total revenues, they're down about, if you look at the actual, about 800,000. You can also see, again, the staff hasn't booked the franchise fees for that month, so that's primarily what the discrepancy is on the revenue. And then on the expenditure side, it's down about 800,000. The insurance, we have paid all our year-end adjustments. I can tell you on our insurance program, as you know, we started under a new program 2 years ago. If you take the projected increases that our consultants had told us for each of the years, and with our savings, actual savings, we would save between $4.5 and $5 million in 3 years. That's allowed us some flexibility in the general fund going forward.
John, sorry, on the sales tax revenue for October, wouldn't you be looking to August?
We put about the actual October and November. We're required to put 2 months back into our fiscal.
Okay, so you're still putting that in the fiscal year
So
that's
the
closed?
December check will actually be the first.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
On utility, which is utility enterprise fund, you can see water sales are up. They're up about almost a little bit, about 2.5%, 3% over last year. Same with the wastewater sales, you know.
How did that happen, excuse me, with us being in the correction situation?
You had a rate increase.
Thank you.
One.
Thank you.
And that rate increase is not fully reflected in the year. But there is, and that's again, I don't have a whole lot of rest. You can see the sales tax, you can see our indexes are continuing up and down. Again, we had, as I mentioned, we had 2 prior months were down, this month is up. And so, again, we think with the connector being open, there are positive signs in the economy, both on the local, state, and national level. So we hope that this is a good trend that will continue throughout the fiscal year. You will notice if you go back to the hotel occupancy taxes, they were down. But two primary reasons we feel, you don't have a printout of what it is, but as you know, the Gaylord did some renovations, so some of the rooms were out of rental capacity, and the Great Wolf Lodge also shuts down and does renovations to a lot of their rooms during this time frame. So we think that's what helped drive that down. We do think that the average rate per room revenue is down, but again, that's a reflection of what we feel those two major hotels. We don't anticipate that trend continuing through those. And mixed beverage, ordered up, as you know, we are slightly more in the state. Just to give you a little bit of history, in 2013, when the law changed, our revenue was up 10.2%, we're not giving as much back to the state. And it's the first increase in 3 years, this monthly one, over 5 years. Again, we think that'll be continued. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot more to say about the 1 month, but we have to answer any questions.
Good news, we can move forward next time.
The unemployment rate is down, and that's one of the local economies.
Yeah.
It's foot basketball.
All right. That's, consider this a workshop.
Thanks, Tom.
Y'all need a break before we go.
I'm gonna go.